What it is, what's up, serious shit in the cut, back into the video. And I actually wanted to refrain from doing YouTube videos, just kind of wean off of it, but I'm like, I saw this one dude, just some fucking like 19-year-old that was hitting a ciggy and doing some. Looks like it'll keep on going. Hopefully it's just picking up. But really good shape. 99, the top percentile as far as just normal ass dudes. And that just really fucked with me. Like, I probably had anxiety in ways before that, just from societal pressures and other things that, this isn't meant to be like a soapbox or a therapy session, but I pretty much put a lot of that stuff down. Like, I dealt with it in probably some negative ways, but for the most part, I put it down. I was able to live a very healthy life in terms of just my actual physical health. But once I felt that, it basically felt like I was having a heart attack. At least that's what I thought I was feeling. And I was just checking my heart, literally checking my heart rate. The incident that occurred that really put it down to me was that, it's going to sound crazy to anybody, again, who isn't like mentally unwell in the same way that I am. So if I recall this day, it was a school day. I was a junior. I had one of those large, iced vanilla McDonald's coffees. So I had that to start the day out, and I think I had that and a sausage biscuit, which is something if you want to speak about unhealthy, that's something I did pretty routinely. Was I would go to McDonald's and my breakfast would be a sausage biscuit, sometimes two sausage biscuits, and the large fresh vanilla or iced vanilla coffee. So that was my breakfast. And then my organization had kind of a, initial meeting of sorts, right? So they had food, which was pizza and Coke. There's a meal that happened between these two that I don't recall exactly. Maybe it was something sweet. But let's just say we went from that breakfast to this, I think about 4 o'clock meal, 5 o'clock, something like that. So I got 2 slices of pizza, I got a Coke. And we're sitting there and they're talking in the meeting, and I'm fucking shaking in a way I've never felt in my entire life. Literally just entire body just buzzing like one of those kind of electric chairs, and just shaking out my ass. Pause. And it got to a point where I kind of held it in for the meeting, but I was fucking heartbeat on my chest, literally just thumping in a way that I don't think I ever focused in on before. I'm sure I had a high heart rate. Like I said, I played basketball for 5-6 hours at a stretch before that point in time. But it was crazy, and I felt my chest was fluttering. I was walking down the steps. It was a 3rd-story building. And dude, I felt like I could fall over at that point. I was taking these very small steps at a time. I was on the verge of tears at this point. So I called my grandma, who's a nurse practitioner, and I'm trying to talk it through her. And the university I attended, this campus is fairly large. It's walkable, so it's not Ohio State level, but it was basically from this spot to my apartment would be about a 35-minute walk, maybe a little bit less. It felt like forever making that walk. And there's a CVS by where I live at, so I was talking to my grandma, she's trying to calm me down to, help with everything. Just the anxiety of it all, I think, is what she kind of looked at it as, because I could walk. And my breathing was initially rushed, because that's what you would normally, have happen, a panic attack or, a heart attack, but either one. But I got a CVS, bought a pulse oximeter. I believe that's what I bought. And the pulse was fine. The oxygen was fine, right? So the pulse, fine in the sense that somebody who just walked 30 minutes and I was in a state of fucking, fear of flight the entire way through, relatively fine. I was still shaking, and she was just kind of okay, well, if you feel bad, maybe an hour or so, just go to an ER. So I'm okay. I ended up going to an ER. And, they get me in there, I'm thinking that the worst is happening here. I'm keeping the oximeter with me. I'm checking routinely. I think I downloaded some app on my phone to check my heart rate. And, I do the ER visit. I'm there for like 5 hours because they're triaging you, and based on like what I look like and my health, generally, at this point I think I was like 20. It's been 2019, so 20. Um, I checked off all the boxes for being normal health. So, eventually I get in there and my grandma, she comes down and she like just like looking at me and stuff. And by the point I get in there, like I'm pretty much at normal heart rate, but I'm just like kind of mentally like stunned at that moment, just in a daze. They do ECG and pretty much everything comes back right, except like I think low electrolytes, something like that. Which is like more of a dietary thing, right? Um, so that comes back fine. Like maybe 2 3 months later, maybe 1 to 2 months later, I'm walking up an incline to and it doesn't really matter. Basically, it's like a 40 seconds worth of walking on an incline, and like I'm walking, and keep in mind between these points, I really was always like self-checking, like my heart rate, how I felt, how my chest felt, my heart rate again. I mean, things like that. I really didn't do too many like full exertions of exercise like I was doing previously. Like I would play basketball, but just be like shooting around, and even that took like a week or so to feel comfortable doing that. Um, to just like really like pacing myself in every walk of life, literally while walking as well. So I'm going up this incline, which is again, it's not that steep an incline. It's probably like 45 degree if I had to think from like where you come in at initially. But like halfway through, like I just feel like a hard punch in my chest. It felt like, and like at that point, because I'm reacting to the solid feeling in my chest at that moment. It's hard to describe really. Kicking overdrive, panic attack. So at that point, I really was between these 2 points. I really was not focusing on academics the way I normally would, and I think this semester was one where I took like 20 hours of classes, so about 8 classes. I think that'd be give or take 7 or 8 classes. This is my junior year, so I was really trying to catch up on things because I switched majors after my freshman year. So that probably is like stress and anxiety in of itself. But I was like fucking up. Like in a way, I'm really was academically inclined in life, but like kind of as I got to a point where like the stress of like trying to get all A's and shit kind of wore down on me, I kind of became less of a studious student. So that really like wore thin on me, and I ended up after that second incident going back to the. I think I went back again to the ER that day. It might have been another day, but I had somebody else take me that time, and kind of came back negative again. They tested what they tested for, um, and I just ended up like talking to my mom. I think I got to take off a semester, so I took that semester off, right, and just kind of am back home for like 2 months, just thinking and shit. I had multiple spells where it's just like basically cry, like just because like the anxiety was just that fucking crazy. And I couldn't tell because I thought I was dying. Basically, I thought I had like heart problems, and I do. I forget the name of it. It's been again like 5 years, 5 or 6 years, I guess. Where like they strap effectively like a device onto you to track your heart rate over the course of like a month, right? So like walking around, exercise, you keep it on. I think doing even taking a shower too. Just keep it on pretty much all walks of life, right? So I get it back to the guy. Really, the only thing that's noticeable is that like I have a higher heart rate when exercising. African Americans have sometimes thicker muscles, heart muscles, so maybe that was why. But I also have like a very low resting heart rate, which is like a sign of just having a very healthy heart. So nothing crazy. I think I was, not warned per se, but just offhandedly, like he mentioned, like, yo, maybe stay away from salt. Maybe that's something that could potentially affect you in the future, but you're fine right now. So, right, did nothing for me. Right, I'm gonna give you this whole like backstory just to get you to where like I've pretty much been at since that point in time. Really, you can do the checks, you can spend all the money. My mom helped with a lot of those bills at that point in time, which blessing to her. But all that stuff I did nothing really for my mentality. I was still doing self checks. My mom got me an Apple Watch, which has the ECG EKG feature, which I only I try to tell her no, I'd never use that, right? End up being in a situation where I used it after like the first few months. Like I pretty much only the heart rate initially, but anytime I would have like these moments where I felt like fluttering or anything like that, ECG mode. So yeah, you're only supposed to be able to use it until like you're 21, 22. I was using like pretty much every day, like 20, which health checks are like just like a death spiral of sorts almost. Um, and I lived by myself on campus, which is 3.5 hours away from my hometown. So when I eventually went back to school in that semester over, like just sleeping was fucking tough. Like just knowing that you have to like let go and just hope your body can effectively like go on its own without any self checks or anything like that. It was tough. It was tough. It was very rough. Um, I didn't even get to a point where like I was checking for like muscle skeletal like misfunctions or misgivings for really like a year. Like this happened like probably around like September 2019. COVID happened, which fucked my anxiety up to a whole nother degree. But COVID happens, and I'm back home pretty much from like March on to like September or August, which would be the because our school was shut down spring semester. So that summer, I'm like checking it out with my primary care down home and like going through things and like, okay, well maybe is I forgot how we get to this point, but we pretty much kind of like think like maybe it's just like postural. That's the problem. So I go to a chiropractor in that area. I get some series of scans done. And I might have got the scans in Auburn too, which is where I normally stayed at, went to school at. And the scans were like your spine's like really fucking curved, right? Like very curved. It wasn't. We really didn't focus on muscle at that point, just straight skeletal. So I went to a chiropractor initially, like when I first get things done, like you get your session or whatever. Um, it'll feel good for like maybe a few minutes or so, like an hour or so later. But like by the next day, it's fucking up again, or it feels like it's fucking up again. So I'm trying to stretch more. I'm trying to do like this and that, that and this. And I will say like, I'm a very lazy person. I did not stick to a very good stretching routine, so keep that in mind. Um, but I do that, and to just cut out at this point to get to where I'm at right now. Like I've probably spent like thousands on ER visits for this and ER visits for that and primary cares and treating for skeletal, treating for muscle. We did a PT, just working through like upper body, mid back, things like that, lower back even, because I pretty much like have sciatica at this point. So like shooting pains on your legs and all these things. Like there's real things like that, real issues, like not as large as like my brain makes them out to be, but I do have sciatica. I have had like back injuries, I guess. Like when I was younger, I fell down and just landed clean on like the middle of my spine on a fucking a roller skate while like at a skating rink, which like felt like I was pretty much fucking paralyzed for a minute. Um, I've had chicks like fucking punch me in the fucking back of my spine, which like fucking same situation. Played basketball and clean on my back before from like midair, like getting clipped out of the midair. Which fucking like if you know anybody that's played basketball before, that's a fucking pain that it's like if I didn't have the other instances of things that have happened, like would be fucking a pain in of itself. I've had things where like I've had car incidents. Like I've had back trauma, right? So it's not like it's just out of nowhere. And a big part of that is why my spine was rounded as it was. But we've worked through that a lot. It's not really as bad functionally speaking as it was, but I still like constantly think of my chest. Like I'm still like lasered in mentally on my chest at all these moments. So at a certain point, it's a mental thing, right? It's a mental thing, and it's something that you're like just focusing on all the time, right? So I set the mood here, right? I'm gonna go. I gotta get some food because I haven't eaten anything all day. By the way, my diet again is not the best. Dietary still very bad. My stomach is really fucked. That's what I'm dealing with now. Is stomach issues, which own can of worms, but it's still kind of more or less from the earlier above issues. So, gonna go get something to eat real quick. Eat that. I got this 17 minutes, probably another 17 minutes bare minimum of me kind of like really espousing why health anxiety is such a bitch and how it shows. You have your source issue. I have my source issue. I just lay it out. But what comes about that, and what do you have that's a result of that you can't even like really express? I'm gonna get my food, eat that shit, get some shit in my fucking belly, and let you motherfuckers know it can come out in a lot of ways. And I think it may just about all be health anxiety. I really do. I'll be back.